Hello, my name is Tarmo Ramel. Today I'm going to show you how to perform an email merge in Microsoft Word. Let's say, for example, that you have a course that you're teaching and you have grades for all of your individual students. I'm going to show you a fabricated data set that I've created that I'm going to use to demonstrate this process today. I'm just going to turn it on, and if we were to look at this in a Microsoft Excel worksheet, what we can see here is that we have a series of columns with attribute titles that are bolded, and each row represents the record for an individual student. We have here a flag, 0 or 1, that indicates whether or not the student is still enrolled in the course. And then we have their ID number, we have their last name, their first name, their email address, really important for doing the email merge. We have the lab group that they belong to. We have the grade that they received on assignment 1, based out of the total number of grades available for assignment 1, the course weight for assignment 1, and then the same 3 columns for assignment 2 and for assignment 3, and then a calculated grade at the end, along with the representative letter grade that's going to be reported. And then I have this extra column that I've added here, which is called the attendance flag, and it is a 0 if I have nothing specific to say to the student, but if there's something that I specifically want to mention, then I've got that written down as a 1 or coded as a 1. It allows me to customize the email message based on what value is found in this column, and we could have any number of these columns, and as we do this we can create increasingly customized results or emails for our students. So let's keep in mind that all of this information is stored in a workbook. This workbook is called demo_grades.xlsx, and the tab that these information are on is called Final Grades, and all of this information we're going to use as we build our email merge. So let me just put that back into the background, and we're going to fire up Microsoft Word. This is the default view when we start it. Notice that we're on the home ribbon up at the top. The page is blank and we can see the margins. We can increase the size of this or decrease the view depending on what fits our screen. I've currently have it expanded to 160% just so that we can have something a little bit larger on the screen to look at. Now, let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is head up over here to the Mailings tab. If we click on Mailings tab, it brings up the Mailings ribbon, and it has all of the options on it that we're going to need to attend to today. So let's start off by clicking on Start Mail Merge, and we're going to choose email messages. Obviously, if we wanted to print letters for mailings, we could do them here. We could create envelopes, we could create labels and other things, but for today we're going to concentrate on email messaging because that's quite honestly how most of our communication happens in this day and age. Notice that not much happened. It just set the environment up for writing an email. Down here we're now in the web layout view rather than the print layout view, but in essence everything else is exactly the same. The first thing that we start with is to select the recipients. That is, who are we going to send this message to? When we click on there, we can choose to load an existing list. Now, we just looked at the Excel file that had the list of students and their contacts. That's where we're going to turn to, but we could manually type one in, or we could pull one up that somewhere already exists on our computer. When I do that, notice that I have that Excel file here, demo_grades.xlsx. I'm going to click on that and hit Open. And it's going to ask me, is this the tab or the worksheet that I want to pull the information from? This worksheet might have multiple tabs. I can then choose exactly which tab to pull that information from. That's correct, so I'm going to click OK. And again, it doesn't look like much has happened, but it has now loaded that information into Microsoft Word so that we can, or it's created the connection so that we can use this for our mail merge. We can verify this by clicking on the Insert Merge Field button and see all of the column names that were in that worksheet, and we now have the ability to select any of those and insert them as a field in our email message. And rather than taking the text from our keyboard into the email message, it's going to pull the values from the respective field in the workbook to replicate or to replace that value in the email message. So let's begin. Normally we start off by saying hello, and rather than saying dear, these are my students, and dear seems a little bit strange, and because we're generally on a first name basis, it's a small course, I tend to refer to my students by their first name, and for that reason I'm not going to use their last name in this messaging, but rather than type in dear so-and-so, I'm going to go up to the merge field and put in the field for first name. And notice that it already wrote in Juliet. That's because the preview results is checked on. If it is, we can uncheck it and we can see that it puts in the field name for us. So now it says hello field name. I typed in a comma. I'm going to go down here and I might want to write a long important message to them about the term and what we learned and how great things have been and how much they learned and so on and so forth. And it looks really great. This is a message that's now going to be personalized to each individual student. But what I like to do at the end of term is to send them a summary of their grades so that they also have the ability to cross-reference with their own records and make sure that nobody made a mistake, and so that the grade that gets submitted and posted is the one that they actually earned. So what I do is I give them the grade breakdown, and I know that there were 3 assignments, so let's type in A1, A2, and A3. Oops, A3. And then I'm just simply going to put some tabs here, and then I'm going to give them their grades. So again, instead of typing the grade, I'm going to go up to the Insert Merge field, and I'm going to choose the grade for A1, and I'm going to put in a divide sign, and I'm going to give them the A1 max, which tells them exactly this is the grade you got out of a total number of marks. And then I'll put in a space and I'll put in weight, and maybe I'll put a % sign after it so that the students know what the weight of that course is. Again, if you want to see what that looks like, you can always click on preview results and see it tells you that Juliet got 13 out of 17 and the course weight is 15%. If you want to see what the second record looks like, we could simply go down and now see that it's Mike, and Mike got 13 out of 17, and Schwen got 9 out of 17, and Massimo got 6 out of 17, and so on. All of those are now entered correctly as we cycle through the individual rows or the records of that Excel data set. But let's do the same thing for assignment 2, shall we? So we're going to go into Merge field, we're going to choose the grade that they got for assignment 2, we're going to put in the divide sign, we're going to put in A2 max, and then just to format it nicely, I'm going to put in the weight of assignment 2, it's a percentage, and I'm going to do the same thing for assignment 3. Assignment 3 divided by the max for assignment 3, and just so that there's no confusion, we know exactly what the weight of all of the assessments were as well. So that's really great, and if I can quickly bring up the Excel sheet again, we can see here that the grade that is calculated is given here in the % column, and if I double click on that, we can see that it's simply a calculation that takes the grade that they received on assignment, divides it by the total available marks for that assignment, multiplied by the weight for the course. And then it adds that up for the same for assignment 2 and for assignment 3, and we end up with the final result, and we simply have a percentage rounded nicely to 1 decimal place. So let's go back and remove that from here. We know that this all looks really good. We can look at the preview and we can see the grades are nicely presented here. Those all look really good. So let's also tell the students what their overall grade is, because really that's what they want to know. So this results in a final course grade of, and I'm going to insert the percentage, and in brackets I'm going to put in the letter grade just so that there's no confusion, and just so that it's really obvious I'm going to bold, Control B, or go up to the home menu and choose the bold button, but I'm going to bold the letter grade just so that the students quickly see the information that they really want to know. So now if we look at the preview results, we have here that this results in a final course grade of, oh my goodness, that's a lot of decimal places. We probably don't want that level of precision in the email message. It looks really awkward and nobody is going to make any real sense or meaning out of it. So we can modify how this is presented in the email message, but nicely it puts in the A+ there as well. So let's turn the preview results off and right click on the field that we want to adjust. We're going to toggle the field code, so we're going to see what's actually embedded inside this message, and it tells us here that we've got a merge field called PCT. After that field we're going to put in a /$ 0.0. That's going to tell us to round this number to have 1 decimal place. So let's preview the results, and sure enough it looks nice and neat. If we wanted this value to 2 decimal places, we could simply put 0.00, and then we could preview our results, and we would have that value rounded to 2 decimal places. It keeps everything formatted nicely in our email body, and it also doesn't lead us to reporting false precision in the calculation of the grade. That's the core of the messaging, and you can sort of format this and write whatever you like around this. But then what we might want to do is provide some of that conditional statements for the students, so that if something happened, we can provide a certain level of messaging. For example, for students that got over 90%, maybe want to congratulate them on achieving the honor roll. We can do those kinds of things. For the example today, what I'd like to do is provide in a comment that's related to their attendance. That last column that we had in our Excel sheet that showed the attendance flag. So for all of the people that have a 1 in this column, I want to tell them that the attendance wasn't great, and perhaps that is a reason for why their grades weren't as expected. So we can also do that really easily in a mail merge or an email merge by going up to, and I'm going to turn the previews off, going up to Rules and selecting If Then Else. This allows us to fill in a relatively simple tool here. It says if a specific field, and we want to scroll down to the attendance flag, is equal to 1, then we're going to have text that gets added into the messaging written here in this box. Otherwise, we're going to insert text from this box, or we're simply going to leave it blank. So it's an ability to modify the text in our email message based on conditions within the data set from which we're pulling the data. So let's say that if it's a 1, it says here, your attendance was subpar. Okay, you can write something a little bit nicer than that. Or your attendance was excellent. Okay. And again, if we go to preview, it says here that for Juliet, her attendance was excellent. As we cycle through here, we see that some of these, oh, here we've got Marina, her attendance was subpar. And if we look at the data set and we look at Marina, clearly she had a 1 and it modified the wording of her email message. So this system works really quite nicely. We can then always sign off and say whatever it is that we want to say. We can add our email signature here, make it all look professional the way that we normally would send our messages. And then we're almost done. We just need to send these things off. What we do is we click on Finish and Merge. Of course, before we do this, make sure that all your fields are correct, that your spelling is correct, everything is the way that you want it, because once it goes to everybody. You can't pull them back. So let's send email messages. We're going to send to, and these are the fields in our data set. We know that the email addresses are coming from the email field, and we can provide a subject line here, and we can select to send this to all records or only one record or a range of records, but we can do all of that from here. And then when we hit OK, it's going to send them off. And I'm not going to hit OK here right now because it's currently sending to a bunch of gibberish email addresses, and I'm simply going to have my email service provider bouncing these things all back to me, telling me that it can't deliver them. But it will then in sequence send one message to each individual based on the information that it pulls from the record for that student, and everybody will get a personalized email message, and they'll think you spent a tremendous amount of time on customizing these messages when actually this is a pretty simple thing to do. So hopefully this helps you communicate with your class, your students, your group, the people that you're dealing with, and to customize messages to them and to help keep everybody in the loop. Until next time, have a good one.